where did all this reality TV come from?
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business, helping provide a smarter, easier way to get the supplies businesses need to thrive. Amazon Business, your partner for smart business buying. And by C3 Generative AI, verified, traceable answers, secure, hallucination-free, LLM-agnostic, IP liability-free. Learn more at c3.ai.
I'm David Brancaccio. First, stock in the company that's been riding the highest wave of artificial intelligence mania has hit the skids. NVIDIA makes graphics chips that turned out to be great for AI. The other day, its stock went so high it became the world's most valuable company. And then investors hit sell. Marketplace's Nova Safo is here.
Yes, they did. NVIDIA shares entered a technical correction down more than 10%. And because the company's valuation has become so massive, David, a drop like that can have a huge effect on the market as a whole. NVIDIA is still nearly a $3 trillion company by market value. Its stock decline has wiped off, depending on how you calculate it, somewhere around $400 and $500 billion of value. And to put that in perspective, that would be the same as ExxonMobil or MasterCard suddenly disappearing. You can imagine that would have effects on the market.
Yeah, and we don't want to pick on NVIDIA. Shares of other AI big tech companies have also been down of late. Is AI mania coming to an end, you think?
So it's too soon to say. More likely this has to do with the end of the quarter. This is the last week, and fund managers usually tend to rebalance their portfolios around this time. Investors might cash in gains, and you clearly are seeing some rebalancing happening in the market where NVIDIA especially and tech as a whole has been driving a rally for months. Now we're seeing gains in other sectors such as finance and energy. So overall, this could be a healthy thing for markets. One key number investors reportedly are paying attention to is $100. If NVIDIA shares fall below that, that could spell trouble or maybe a bubble bursting, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, it's at 118 in pre-market trading now, up 3% overnight. NASDAQ futures are up 0.4%. S&P futures are up 0.2%. I see Dow futures now down 0.2%. And here's a number, a fraction actually, 1/3. A new survey from Prudential Financial finds women have saved a third of the money that men have saved for retirement, about $50,000 for women, $157,000 for men. 46% of men said they were looking forward to retirement. Only 26% of women were like, yeah, I can't wait.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by The Economist, devoted to providing independent journalism that makes sense of the news shaping the world. More at economist.com or with The Economist app, newsletters, and podcasts. And by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com.
Now to the business behind what has become a debased word, that is reality. When it comes to reality television, the word should not imply you're seeing what really happened. It means not scripted. Some reality TV is what my grandmother would call dreck. Yet some shows have been fascinating and sometimes shape the wider culture. Joining us is Emily Nussbaum, a staff writer at The New Yorker magazine and author of a book out today called Cue the Sun, The Invention of Reality TV. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So if you make something that's not reality narrative, you make Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey that takes years, quadrillions of dollars, and each prop is carefully crafted. It costs a lot of money. Reality TV doesn't cost as much.
Reality TV exists because it's cheap. It's a way for networks not to pay writers, not to pay actors, and not to work with unions. But just because it's inexpensive doesn't mean that wasn't a goad to creativity. Because The Real World, for instance, they wanted to do this show called St. Mark's Place that was just going to be a scripted soap opera. And what John Murray and Mary Ellis Bunham, who created that show, came up with was something really provocative. They put 7 strangers picked to live in a house to find out what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real. And they invented all of the aspects of modern reality, like the diverse cast, the confessional, all sorts of editing that's been incredibly influential. So I've always thought of early reality TV as simultaneously a very cruel budgetary tactic and a really provocative, almost punk set of artistic developments that ended up influencing all of the culture.
I mean, the book does not set out to mock all of this, but do you actually like some of it?
I wouldn't say the book is either a celebration of reality or a denunciation of it, but people who made those shows feel very different ways about them. Some of them feel very ashamed of their work, and some of them feel very proud of it, including some of the most manipulative parts of it. And actually, as one person who worked on The Apprentice said to me, you work just as hard on a show that you sell your soul for. So it's a moral conundrum that's baked into the production process.
I mean, a moral conundrum, some of it probably falls into the category of dishonest. The audience probably thinks it's more real, but in fact, the reality is a lot of it's constructed.
A lot of modern reality is constructed. My book runs from 1947 to 2009. I call that like the spaghetti on the wall period. So it covers everything from Queen for a Day through Cops, through The Real World Survivor, Big Brother. And this was the experimental period. And most of the people who signed up for it genuinely didn't know what they were getting into. But one thing I'll say, and I say this in the book, is that the phonier a show is, the more ethical it is. And that's sort of the sad, unavoidable contradiction of reality programming, because the parts of it that are abusive or exploitative are also sometimes the parts of it that lead to the stories that people can't look away from because they're undeniably real.
Now, when we were talking about the economics of some of this, you mentioned that reality TV is non-union. That's changing.
A lot of my book traces a real attempt to unionize reality producers with WGA, and it was just a failure. And the reason it was a failure is there's a historical split between scripted TV and non-scripted TV. You know, when I talk to people from much earlier shows, from decades ago, and I would ask them about this, there were people who were like, it can't be unionized. The reason it exists is because of the bottom line. And I think it's helpful for reality audiences to know more about how the shows are made. And that's part of what this book is about, the part that's meant to stay invisible because people are trained not to take these shows seriously. This is an attempt to look at them thoughtfully through the voices of the people who made them.
Emily Nussbaum, staff writer at The New Yorker. The new book on the origins of reality TV is called Cue the Sun. Emily, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
In the early 1970s, what may have been the first reality TV show, An American Family on PBS, blew to bits the rosy image of upper-middle-class suburbia. Our full conversation has that. Streamable from marketplace.org. From APM, American Public Media.